doing my 100 metres at school. The 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah.
Aye, aye. Anyway, good afternoon, David.
Good
Let's
afternoon.
sort out the Facebook stream.
Yep.
Over there. Make it public. That's us. We're laughing. We should get Facebook starting to come through now.
I love that name, Barbara Lansborough. I keep getting the image of Murder She Wrote.
Aye.
I know you're not nothing like that, Barbara, but seriously, that's what runs across my head every time I see your name.
If it was Angela Lansbury, there'd be murder in the bloody chat.
Anyway, it's a fun one we've got today, and we hope that you'll all join in the banter, right?
Anyway, let's have a look. We haven't got any Facebook. Let's have a look. We've got Gingers in, we've got Barbara in, we've got Malcolm in, we've got Wolf Pet, we've got Liz, we've got Sars, we've got Robert the Bruce, we've got Kay, Patricia, Paul. I see Dean's there. Ali, hi Ali. How's things? Stephen, Julie Brown. We've got Michael Smith, the first of the Facebookers in. Wee Bud, Chris, Alison, Rosemary. Numbers are climbing nicely. Madam Director's flashing again.
I'm not putting the bloody bell on. You want my trousers up?
That's what I said. Madam Director's flashing again. Anyway, yeah, a couple of minutes to hit 100 mark, and then we'll get it underway. Let's make sure I get to the right page. This is the 7th of the 8th, 2023. And we are the Two Davies.
Anyway, what do you think of the big release of the Freedom of Information request to the Electoral Commission?
I said wait till we get 100 on board.
Oh, come on. We've not got that much now already.
No, I'll get a couple more seconds. It's flying up. I'll just play with my clicky pen and entertain everybody. But you need to watch Push Scotland or no watching. Oh no, it's not like clicky pens are after, it's these ones. Somebody come up in there and give me these. Says there a couple of clicky pens, David. So we've got the ones Push Scotland are after.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we're up at 100 mark. Okay, so what did we make the Electoral Commission say? A intervention a couple of days after Jackie Baillie tried to tell us there was such a party as the Scottish Labour Party. So
yes, and Anna Sawar tried to tell us that it was nothing more. The fact that Scottish Labour were not an independent political party was nothing more than a conspiracy theory. Right? Where have unionists used that before? Was it not the big Clare Ridge oil field?
Aye. But
we were told that was a conspiracy theory.
As it turns out, the Electoral Commission has cleared that up. Apparently, political parties can use 12 derivatives of their name, and they can use 3 symbols. So we can have a bright red Scottish Labour symbol up here, a Labour symbol up here to make it look as if it's more left wing, a darker red to make it more centralist in England, and a sort of in between red and Wales, So that's the sort of thing they're talking about. You can have 3 different logos. So Scottish Labour's got a thistle, isn't it?
Now, the thing I can't really understand here is I know for a fact that Freedom of Information requests were sent into the Electoral Commission on this previously.
Yes.
So why did they not respond at that time?
Obviously, the Q fire didn't be told by the Commission you have to release this information.
No, my mind hasn't changed on the Electoral Commission. As far as I'm concerned, they're part of the Tory party.
Obviously, they were taken into government and had their teeth pulled.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of a slap in the face for Baillie and Sawar.
Why?
Because it's been made clear that they can use 12 names, and we know they do. You've got Welsh Labour, you've got London Labour, you've got Birmingham Labour, you've got Liverpool Labour, you've got Manchester Labour, you've got Glasgow Labour, you've got Edinburgh Labour, you've got Aberdeen Labour. So is, you know, they do use the different names in different areas, right? But none of them are distinctive political parties. There is only one. The Electoral Commission has made it clear, and that is the Labour Party, which is registered in London and whose head office in London. The rest of them are just derivatives of the name Labour.
Their accounting facility, that's in Newcastle.
Aye. And apparently, the office in Glasgow is a sub-office of Newcastle.
Yeah.
So the Glasgow accounting office actually answers to the Newcastle accounting office.
Guys, there's a reason why we've put this up front and centre, right? It's very simple. All of us, we've known this for years. We've known that there isn't another Labour Party. There isn't a party called Scottish Labour, really. It's just the Labour Party. But for us knowing that does no good whatsoever. What we need our next door neighbour, the wee woman that lives up the street, that's voted Labour all her life, to be told this.
No, they have been.
Not necessarily.
No, if you don't read the National, you don't know about it, because it was then that found the freedom of information.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is that people, we accept in our own bubble that people understand that Labour, there is only one Labour. Yes?
Aye, and let's move on anyway, and we'll get back to Labour in a few occasions through this report, right? Right, the Bibby Stockholm prepares for first inmates, and Labour confirmed they would also continue to use the barges and tents, marquees, and ex-military sites to house asylum seekers if they came to the office. Now, the reason being given is because they'll have to use the infrastructure that's been left behind. No, they didn't. In fact, why they're admitting this at all makes no difference. They just had to say, for day one, we'll look at alternatives, and that was it. Deflected. But once again, the Labour Party are basically saying that they get prepared for continuity government. We aren't going to do anything different. You know, except for they're saying they're going to process asylum seekers faster. What do you make of it, David?
What I do is I look at it from the English point of view. If the Labour Party are just going to be the same as the Tory Party, why change?
That's exactly it. But that will bring us on to something a wee bit more interesting further down. Which was because there's only a few real stories of substance out there, as you know, David. We're in the silly season. There was a lot of MPs on programmes making an absolute tit of themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, and of course the broadcasters, as usual, have not covered themselves in glory.
No, that's true. But they never do. They never ever do.
Class action, class action. No, I didn't pick up on it. Good afternoon, Daily Blase. Welcome aboard again. If you haven't visited Daily Blase's YouTube channel, please do, folks. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Great sense of humour. Anyway,
absolutely brand new.
Right.
Daily Blase is absolutely brand new. As a Scottish phrase for you.
Anyway, so we know that the fire brigade refused to sign off on fire safety for this thing. We know that the health and safety executive has said there's no safety house to humans. And yet, here we are, Monday morning, and the animals are trooping onto the barge.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way they're being treated, as animals.
Yeah.
They're not being treated as human beings. And let's be clear, this is a prison. This is a floating prison, which is dangerous. The fire brigade have made it clear to the Home Office, it's dangerous for the people who inhabit it. It's dangerous for their firefighters to get in. Apparently, the walkways in the bloody thing are that narrow. If there's a fire, there's no escape.
Yeah.
You know. So, although the Home Office has been told this isn't a safe thing to do, the Home Office are doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking. So this morning, there are TV cameras and radio programmes, because I heard it when I went to pick Sarah up, telling us that the first inhabitants have arrived and are on that barge, even though it's not safe. It shows you how little value the Home Office puts on these people's lives. You know, it's a bloody disgrace.
The human beings just same as we are, simple as that, and they don't deserve to be treated that way. you know.
But I mean, the way the Labour Party have handled this has been pretty poor. Aussie today was, we're looking into alternative arrangements. So there's at least an hour, a year away from the office. That's all they had to say. They didn't have to say, "Hey, we're going to carry on," where the Tories led up. And what the Shadow Minister said, and it's Kinnock's son, Stephen Kinnock, you know, dynasty building within the Labour Party. That's why they shut the Falkirk Electoral College, because of dynasty building here in Scotland within the Labour Party. Look at Sarwar and there's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, and look at Tony Blair and his son's an MP for the Wirral. Anyway, thanks, Margaret. That's very, very generous of you. So, Kinnock tells us he expects there to be more barges when Labour take over in the year's time. So he doesn't say barges, he says barges. And Labour will continue to use barges, marquees, and ex-military facilities to house these people. Now remember, folks, this is important to remember, because the illegal migration bill has passed, the Home Secretary is now duty-bound to detain these people. They've got 28 days to put in an asylum claim. There's not enough lawyers to process that amount of stuff, not enough staff to process that amount of stuff. And then, of course, they're not being detained for 28 days, they're being detained indefinitely because they've got nowhere to send them to. This is bloody inhuman.
Yeah.
You know? So, today is a shameful day for the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers in UK politics as a whole.
To be honest with you, as a Scot tied to this union, I'm ashamed. I really am ashamed. It cannot continue. Simply can't. Anyway,
it's astounding. So these people, the minute they cut the land, they are then criminalised and detained.
Yeah.
Wow.
It used to be that people landed on, come off an airplane, and if they managed to
we'll get to your comment a wee bit later in the programme, Chris.
They could actually say, as they actually came through, a claim asylum, and they would then be taken aside and processed as such. Now we've just got people that are landing by whatever means, and let's face it, the wee boat seems to be the normal way.
But anyway,
they're being treated as criminals.
Desiree says, House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers don't do shame. You're absolutely right, Desiree. And I'm glad the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers is catching on. I've been working with that one for years. Alistair, thanks very much. Funds and Plan A, Plan B ascension items. We'll get there, I promise, we'll get there. I'll put that one up because it's got a... Hold on, put it up. There it's there. Put it up. It's jumping too fast. Aye, we'll go it up. Super chat. We'll get to that a wee bit later. We decided to leave that as a separate subject, actually. You know. Right, next one. Anna Sarwar comes out in favour of Brexit in an attempt to win the 24% of people in Scotland who favour Brexit, some of which are independent supporters, David. And also, Starmer has given Sarwar £1 million to target at 25 seats in Scotland, specifically to stop the SNP from getting a majority at the next election.
Prior to the vote for Brexit, I remember talking to people online that were actually anti-EU, and they were anti-EU because of the Greek situation, right? And my way of thinking of it is, when you look back at the history of Greece and how it came to be part of the EU, Greece wasn't ready for taking its place in the EU. However, that time has passed. They've managed to get things worked out. But there were people that I was debating with at the time that said that they thought the EU was the Antichrist, something as that. You know what I mean?
Aye.
And these were pro-indie people. Nowadays, I've got to say, if you're pro-indie and you don't support the idea of us getting in and taking our place at the seat of the EU table, then you're playing daft, because in actual fact, Scotland, because of our natural resources, because of our output, we would have a strong seat at the EU and be able to change the EU to the way that we want to see it progress.
Well, we be old things that we don't like and maybe put them back to a rethink. Let's put it that way. But anyway, the main point there, David, was...
just let me just finish, right? The other point is that people have been arguing that we'll not get back in the EU. It's dead simple. The move has to be, in terms of time and getting the country running, is get into EFTA, the European Free Trade Association.
You're after I'm trying to talk about Sarwar here.
It's all right, mate. I was just finishing a point.
Poverty Pine saying that he now supports Brexit. If I remember right, Poverty Pine campaigned against Brexit.
Yeah.
You know, but he also, in the same statement, he said, you know, he now supports Brexit because, as you know, if you vote for Labour, you get Boris's hard Brexit. But he also, but what he says is Scottish Labour will oppose. As we know, Scottish Labour doesn't exist. So let's say Labour spokesperson in Scotland, Anna Sarwar. So we'll correct the BBC and everybody else on this. It's no Scottish Labour, it's Labour spokesperson in Scotland. And in other words, it's the cuckoo in the nest. So cuckoo in nest in Scotland says he now supports Brexit, but will oppose Starmer on the two-tail cap and the rate clause. What a fish. He's a yes man. He was picked to be a yes man. And we'll also get to that later. And we'll talk about the person who replaced and how that person get the sack. Because that came to light this week as well. Right, let's move on. We're sticking with the Labour Party, of course, but this time it's Sir Keir Starmer. Now, do you remember John McTiernan?
Yeah, John McTiernan.
McTiernan,
right? Yeah. He was just a bad noise back in the time of the last referendum.
Let's get some meat in the bones of this guy. The political strategist who voted Tony Blair is landslide. Yeah. He was then a political advisor to Gordon Brown.
Yeah.
He then pissed off to Australia where he managed to wreck the Labour movement in Australia. He then moved back to Scotland where he became campaign manager for the famous Jim Murphy, who managed to lose all but one seat for the Labour Party in Scotland at the general election, leaving only the Secretary of State, Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland, the wee idiot that runs about in Union Jack suit. Such a memorable wee twat, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Anyway, Starmer has just enlisted McTiernan. And what's the first time McTiernan tells him? He tells Starmer, you better compromise with the left, because if you don't, you cannot win this next election. So Starmer, being a thick establishment idiot, has to ask John why. And John says to him, well, under Corbyn there was 500,000 members. Under you at the moment you're losing 10,000 members a month. Who the fuck do you think are the activists that chap those or put leaflets through? Because it's no the spanners that you're trying to get money off in big business. If you don't have any activists on the street, you can't win elections. So reality hit Starmer in the face. He shed 370,000 members, and it's taken shedding 370,000 members for Starmer to realise that he needs these people to campaign and canvass.
Yeah.
So McTiernan is back, and the first thing he does is slap Starmer right round the chops and says, you're going to have to compromise with the left if you want to get into power. Because if you keep driving the left away, you've no chance of getting into power.
So what's the size of membership, the Labour membership that you discovered?
They're losing 10,000 a month. The last official count was 138,000. Now, if they're losing that figure was published a couple of months ago. If they're losing 10,000 a month, well, they're down to 118,000.
Yeah.
You know, that's not. I mean, Starmer's been a disaster for the Labour movement. Right? It was meant to be a disaster for the Labour movement. Because as we all know, Starmer's going to come in. He's no talent. He's got 5 years of absolute poison chalice while the Tories regroup, and they'll be back in 5 years' time. So anybody here in Scotland think voting Labour's going to make a difference? It's no. Labour's going to inherit a pig in a poke, and then when that pig, and 5 years later, the Tories will come back and say, well, look at the mess these buggers made. Look at us, we're rejuvenated and ready to go again. So they'll be lucky if Labour gets one term, especially because Starmer's a talentless twit.
I don't think Labour are going to last 5 years if they do get in. That's if it's not a hung parliament in favour of the Tories. I think Labour maybe manage 2 or 3 years, but the finances are just going to be ridiculous.
I'll put this one up with Kay because funny, Kay, you're not the only person who's saying that it's too late for Starmer to reach out to the left. Kernow Damo's saying the same. Owen Jones is saying the same. Navarra Media, they're all saying the same thing. What is really interesting is the way that the press are playing this guy up and the way they're playing Sarwar up here. They've got the mainstream media helping them. They're getting part of cake questions. Nobody's actually doing any questioning of them properly. I mean, let's face it. I mean, here's Starwar, here's poverty pie here in Scotland. As we all know, he won't pay his workers the minimum wage, the living wage, so they'll get the minimum wage. And while all that time he's campaigning for social justice, who are you kidding? He's a multi-millionaire whose dad's a crook. But the background of the carry on for his father and things like that are being dragged up. The guy is a champagne. He's not even a socialist. He's a Tory to his toes. He's dross. He is the Labour Party spokesman here in Scotland. Is just another dross. That's all he is. And Tony Blair, Starmer is a Tony Blair puppet. He's got the same people advising him as Tony Blair. You've got Mandelson, you've got McTiernan. Now these are the spads that are advising Starmer. No wonder he's lost the left. Right, let's move on, David. What did you make of Penny Mordaunt in that video she put out? Did you see it?
No, I didn't see the thing, but I do understand it was about the food banks and the fact that she was very, very proud of this food bank being opened and that they were going to open up across the street, sort of thing.
What it was, right? She's in her constituency and she's visiting a food pantry. They're calling it instead of a food bank. She's bumming up how they're supporting the 130 families who the welfare state have let down. And guess who's been in government for 13 years? The Conservatives. We can't blame it on Penny Mordaunt, the Conservatives. Yeah. But she obviously doesn't the irony. Why on this video she's talking about another pantry within her constituency, which is supporting more people who can't afford to live on the safety net. And then goes on to boast that they're about to open another one. Boasting they're about to open another one. Boasting about her government's failure to make sure the minimum safety net was there for people. Well, talk about no doing irony.
It's the Germans that came up with the phrase of charity is a failure of government. And most certainly food banks are a failure of the UK government. Through your donations, we're blessed to be able to give out money to these food banks around about us.
This is interesting. And it would appear that Alistair Campbell's getting in on the gig of trying to hold the UK together and try to swat the ball of the Scottish people. Apparently, Leslie Riddoch has got the sack from the Herald after they had a meeting with Alistair Campbell as they are backing Labour. So apparently the Herald's backing Labour in this election. It would appear we will have the might of the press against us when we come up with this next election, folks. Same as the might of the press against the people in Rutherglen and Hamilton West.
Let's just go right back up to blooming number one, which is the Electoral Commission story. And that will put Alistair Campbell et al. To blooming sleep, because they cannot get over that. The fact that now it is official that the Scottish Labour is not a separate party, but is just part of London Labour.
David, the lie's already been around the world twice, and the fucking press have always just put the boots on the truth.
Hey, fine. But let's just keep it out there. Keep it out there. Keep it out there.
We'll put it out there, and the people of Scotland already know. But now it's been confirmed by the Electoral Commission. But it's not going to make any difference if the mainstream media don't report on it.
There'll be a lot of people in Scotland, and I'm talking predominantly about people that would vote Labour, that don't know or understand that. They think Scottish Labour is a separate.
So the revelation what the Electoral Commission has made makes no fucking difference. I would just say. Because there's only you and me.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference because people like you and me can actually find somebody that's a Labour supporter and say, did you know And if they go, no, that's wrong, all you do is pass them the information from the Electoral Commission. So that isn't black and white. That's what I've been trying to do online, is get people to go, look, don't just consider the people in your own bubble as having the answer. I know you know that Labour have always been part of London Labour, something like that, right? You need to take it to people that don't recognise that. Simple as that, okay?
Anyway, let's move on. Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Dowden announces full-on privatisation of NHS. And at the same time, him and Grant Sharps did the news round, right? Yep. So Dowden announces that they're going to use the private sector to try and clear the backlogs down that road, because apparently they've capacity, but as you know, it's a drip. The money's taken out of the NHS because it follows the patient down that road. Many people down that road don't know about the 2012 Health and Social Care Act, England and Wales, where the money follows the patient. So that money is then following that patient away from an NHS facility to a private facility. The NHS facility will be left to die on the vine, and there will be nothing left but the private sector. And it's just been trumpeted by Oliver Dowden. And guess who says they would copy it? Starmer.
Yeah.
So NHS privatisation in full swing down that road. Now, obviously, there would still be consequentials until the NHS for Scotland, until the NHS itself actually dies and they manage to get rid of the name. Sorry, you're late. Alexis, sorry you're late. You're sitting on the naughty step. Mind your earth in the candle. Don't want you to get burnt. Anyway, what happens now is a drip, as money goes from the NHS away, the consequentials get smaller and smaller and smaller. And Scotland and Wales, funding's a wee bit different for Ireland, but for Northern Ireland, but funding for Scotland and Wales will dry up, and we will be forced to follow the same pattern. You know, but what's interesting is what they were saying down that road is it's still the NHS. It will still be free to the point of use, where you're just going to private facilities. It's not the NHS. The money already follows the patient in England. It does not go to an NHS facility and then you go attend that facility free of charge. The money follows you as a patient around.
Yeah, you must look at the way that the funding is provided. In Scotland, the money is provided en masse to all the different parts of the NHS. End of. That's the story. Whereas in England, the money follows each of the boards that go to the doctor. And the doctor says, oh, you need that new tenant to, right? I'll send you to such and such. The person thinks they're going to an NHS facility. No, they're not. It was privatised a few years ago. It might be inside the local hospital, but it's still a private unit. And that money goes to that private unit and therefore goes to the blooming Tory boss that has shares in it.
Well, it's basically just it's dragging the money away from the NHS facilities, basically. And these facilities are already 40 bits down that road. There'll be no incentive to invest in these facilities because they're not doing any of the heavy lifting anymore. All be done by the private sector. So that's privatisation been announced, fanfare, and even people have been duped into believing that going down that road is going to be still the NHS and it'll still be free to the point of use. It isn't the NHS, and your NHS will wither and die. Simple as that.
Yeah, then at that point, you're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from funding the whole thing by health insurance. And the question I've got to ask then is, what actual difference does it make if the money follows the patient as to whether funding via health insurance or by taxation, what's the difference? What difference does it actually make?
Apparently we're being streamed. You are live on Indie Live Radio. Well, welcome to the audience in Indie Live Radio. Welcome aboard. Thanks for letting us know, Chris. And whoever's on Indie Live Radio at this point in time, thanks very much for picking up the stream. We are very grateful. The more people we can reach, the better. So that's a wee bit of good news. Oh, Mark Telfer's dropping out early. Naughty step next time, Mark. So anyway, Oliver Dowden. But here, let's get on to part two of what Grant Sharps and Oliver Dowden were saying when they were talking about this. Now, they were asked about inflation. Get this, they don't the irony either, because they blamed inflation on tight labour markets. They were then asked, Is it got anything to do with Brexit? No, it's tight labour markets. Guess what? 1 million fucking workers left the UK when Brexit happened. That's what created the tight labour markets, no freedom of movement. But the Tories just don't the irony, did they? Wow.
I thought the best story like that was, you remember the big long queues at down to Dover, and there was a Tory politician got in a minibus with all his mates, and they drove down the road. He pulled in, he stepped on a human shite.
Right, apparently I'm going to swear because we're running into the live. All right. So,
right, okay.
Right,
the shite count. Oh, right, okay.
I remember when I rant without a profanity. Right, and half on the heels of these two bampots comes Rishi Sunak's LBC interview. Did you see it?
No, you've picked up on a few of these things. I haven't seen them this week because, well, I had a letter from my mother.
I wrote Sydney.
But blames the unemployment for inflation. The unemployed for inflation. Come on.
That was one of the things that he blamed.
Please explain that one to us, David.
I will when I get to it. You've got to remember the other things that he blamed the teachers for the problems in the education sector, the underinvestment in teachers' wages, underinvestment in the infrastructure. He then went on to blame NHS staff for striking for the huge waiting lists. The huge waiting list created by the pandemic, allegedly, but we're already there pre-pandemic anyway. And it has been right across the UK's NHSs because as the funding for Westminster to NHS England has shrunk, then the consequentials to Wales and Scotland has shrunk. So all our NHSs has suffered as a consequence. Right. But there he is, sitting in LBC blaming nurses and doctors for the rise in a waiting list in England. Instead of underinvestment in the staff, underinvestment in the people. In fact, there was a medical professional come on to the phone and give them a right telling off, saying we're demoralised, we're leaving, we're heading for the hills, we're heading for Australia, we're heading for New Zealand, we're heading for Canada. And he's given it, that's your fault. Wow. And then he gets on to inflation. And tight labour markets, he's blaming 1 million unemployed people who could be working. Unfortunately for him, the jobs are nowhere near where these million people live. Wow. So all of a sudden, the poorest people in society who are being forced by inflation because they spend all their earnings into the economy.
Well, Julie Brown says he says what was it? I'll just get back and find it. He says that the publicans were saying everything was just great.
Oh, I watched that one. That was funny. He's pulling a pint and he's getting heckled. Pulling a pint, telling everybody the Republicans are saying that business is booming, and he's getting heckled. This is the very day they announced outside a budget which shouldn't have been done that they're increasing alcohol duty on whiskey, on spirits, up to 75%. And here he's telling Republicans things are booming while he's trying to pull a pint. Wow. And there was also somebody photoshopped that one with somebody standing behind them looking amazed at how poorly built this pint. But that was a Photoshop picture. But apparently, Milligan, your mic's on mute.
No, it's not at all.
No, maybe need to lean in a bit, David.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
So, Sunak's on LBC blaming everybody and the dog and the cat for problems in the UK after 13 years of Tory corruption. Let's use Carol Vorderman's words here and call it. It's not a government. It's a criminal cabal. It's corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, Sunak, during his reign as Chancellor, has seen the public purse being defrauded by 5% in the average year. Our 2 years jumped to 25%. So 25 billion quid's worth of corruption, 47 billion quid's worth of corruption, and Sunak's not investigating a penny of it.
Yeah.
We wonder why, don't we?
Yeah.
And of course, as we already spoke about, I mean, it's all insider trading and stuff. I mean, look at these new oil licenses right after his brother-in-law signed a deal with BP for 1.5 billion. And it turns out, guess what, Infosys have a similar arrangement with Shell.
I remember back in my my younger days, I knew a main contractor where the guy that hired in all the scaffolding, he took a brown paper envelope once a month off this company that did the scaffolding. And all the scaffolding just hung around the back of this building. It wasn't erected. It was just getting rented all the time, right? This guy got his brown paper envelope. Well, I reckon Rishi Sunak and his family are just like that. And Rishi daren't open anything. Rishi daren't bring up any of these issues that we're bringing up.
What's interesting about it is, I mean, Rishi Sunak is a Infosy, or whatever they call it. Anyway, what's interesting is, what is Rishi Sunak? He's just an accountant. Just a bad one. A crooked one.
Yeah.
You know? Right, this has come up in the comments a few times, so we're back on Bibby Stockholm territory, and it's Home Office looking at Plan B for because there's every chance that Rwanda is not going to fly. So what we talk about, we're a few £100 million out on the Rwanda deal, and it's probably not going to fly. It's not going to pass the Supreme Court. Rwanda isn't a safe place to send people. So they've decided that if they can't send them to Rwanda, they're going to send them to the Ascension Islands to be processed. Now that's a wee lump of rock in the middle of the Pacific, I think it is. Yeah. And that's where they're going to send them to, apparently. A wee lump of rock in the middle of nowhere. So it could well be that your idea, David, that they might clear a couple of Scottish islands and start sticking them there, could come up.
There's the three minuscule islands that we have, Egg, Muck and Rum, right? And it's like...
they're privately owned, David.
No, but they could pay they could actually pay the people that live on them lots of money to move off onto the mainland or move to one of the other islands, right? Relocate, and then that would give them a prison island. So, and then nobody could say it's unsafe because we won't have had any revolutions there for a few hundred years, right? So things would be okay. Yeah.
Hey, let's put this one up. NHS England had a deadline a few years ago where anyone's medical history could be passed to the third party unless you opted out. I remember that actually. Third parties, private insurance companies, no doubt. I'll tell you one better than that. I mean, they're going full pelt to get a grip at everybody's genetic materials at this point in time. BlackRock, the dodgy financial organisation, stroke security organisation, stroke everything, they've just bought Ancestry.com. And Ancestry.com holds huge DNA libraries. You know, unbelievable.
Each one of you people that did the DNA test, sent it away in the poke, and got back how much of a South African you are, and how much of a Norwegian you are, and all the rest of it. They've got your DNA. They've got your information. All the wee lines that say what what it is you've got. You know.
Aye, what's interesting is we see chaos at the ports out at Easter break, summer holidays and things like that. Right, later this year, they're going to introduce biometrics at ports and entry points. That means everybody's going to get their photograph taken and their fingerprints taken. That's every single person. You ain't going to get problems at borders at the moment. Oh. This is just a fun beginning. Just as well I don't want to go anywhere. But so the Home Office is looking at the Ascension Islands again. Now this idea was looked at before and kicked into the long grass in favour of whatever it is. Now why don't they just do what they should do and build a processing centre in France? The French have said, look, bro, why don't you build a processing centre there? You know? And then open up official routes. At this point in time, the UK is a pariah state. It has breached international contracts when it comes to this illegal migration bill. Unbelievable. So it is. Christ, we're flying through this today, David.
Yeah, I know. Appreciate that.
But I mean, there's been all sorts of silliness out there. I mean, Genric's been at it again and all.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's announced today that the GMB and Unite unions voted to strike in 10 council areas over teachers' pays and pay in the early learning sector for 2023-2024. So with last year's negotiations, I'd seen some strikes and then it was settled. Now we're on to this year's negotiations, and Unite and GMB have voted to go on strike again.
Yeah, the thing is, when you peel away the different layers, you find that the GMB is run by Richard Leonard's wife, and it's like that. She has actually tried to cause problems before Glasgow City Council, if you remember, not so very long back, right? That was a GMB. That was a GMB action, and it's like we need to look at this square in the face and go: are a few of these union leaders actually on the side of the Tories?
Well, anyway, let's talk about the deal that's on the table for these for United GMB and the early learning sector and the primary teaching, as far as I can tell this is. They've been offered 5% plus a £1 an hour pay rise. So 5% plus a £1 an hour pay rise. Rise to the living wage. Yeah. So 99 pence on the living wage and then 5% pay rise. Now, what they want is 10.4%, which is the RPI.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the CPI at the moment, Consumer Price Index, which is doing it 7.4.
I had to actually go through converting to CPI from RPI, right? Retail price index is made up from the rise in a basket full. Imagine a basket full of food, right?
Aye.
Or different things, right?
Right, David, we know how it works. So I haven't explained it. Have you frozen on me?
No, I haven't frozen on you. I'm just looking at you. CPI was Consumer Price Index, and that was actually made from a different thing altogether. Retail Price Index meant that the inflation figure was higher. By doing CPI, the inflation figure was smaller, and it looked better politically for the government.
And that's why they jump from one. They go back and forward between them, as you know, David. Sometimes they go in the retail price index, sometimes they go in the consumer price index. One imagines mortgage costs and things like that, the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, mortgage rental costs are factored in one of them and isn't in the other. So, and that's why it generally comes out lower. Now, but the GMB and Unite have entered into 2023-24 negotiations on wage, saying that the 5% plus the pound uplift in the minimum wage isn't enough. Well, you know what? As long as inflation's that high, they're absolutely correct, David. Can't argue with the premise. But what we have to say is, and we said this at last year's negotiations as well, if you work in these these sectors, I totally understand, Dave and I totally understand that you totally deserve an inflation busting pay rise. But I'm afraid to say the Scottish Government is on a fixed budget.
Yeah. And also, as you claim that money, have a good look at your work colleagues and figure how many of them are going to be going to the wall as far as the job's concerned.
I've just got a message from Kevin saying thanks very much for being on the John Drummond show. It was brilliant. Anyway, as I say, they've decided to go on strike. So the message I'm going to put out there to teachers and people working in the early learning sector, when you enter these negotiations, because apparently they're blaming Cosland and the Scottish Government for no begging for more after the English Government. But the Westminster Treasury is no paying up anyway. So, but they're blaming Cosland for no negotiating properly with the UK government to make sure there's enough funding to give them a 10% rise. I don't know if they've noticed, but the UK government's giving nobody a bloody rise. Everybody, they're all getting 6%, and that's a cut. You've been offered just a wee bit better than 6% because you've got the rise in the minimum, no minimum wage, the living wage before you get your 5% rise. But as I say, we totally understand, and you're absolutely correct. This is inadequate, but you're going to have to compromise. Or, like I said last year, if you don't compromise, you're going to have to look at your colleagues, run about you, and say whose job's gone. That's what happened last year. The compromise was people will be laid off. Simple as that.
Yeah, still, why compromise? Why not just get independence and then the money, the pounds and pennies will start to figure themselves out? We'll be in a far better position.
Of course, but it would still take a few years to work its way through.
Of course it would, yes.
You know,
but it'll be a continuously improving situation as time goes on. People will feel the pressure abating. Simple as that. That's why we really need independence, guys, because as it is, it ain't working.
Well, Desiree, for 2023, 2024, they accepted 5% plus a 2,000 cash injection up front. What they will accept this year, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they'll accept. But all I'm saying is, I agree that what's being offered is inadequate. Going future because of the new funding model, it might be a wee bit better because the Scottish budget has now legally got to be adjusted for inflation, whereas before it didn't have to be adjusted for inflation. So it might get a wee bit better when it comes to public sector pay. But I'm afraid the way it generally works is, if they're going to have to bust the bank to keep the schools open, the teachers in their place, then the classes will get bigger, the amount of teachers will get less, the amount of classroom assistants will get less, the amount of people working in the early learning sector will get less, and this service will be diminished. That just happens to be the fact of devolution in the fixed budget will go, David.
Aye. Stephen Bankier has said he's really late today. Hi, folks. And what I've got to say to Stephen Bankier is, you've seen the naughty step, you've seen the candle underneath David's thing. We've got a flamethrower. Lined up for you, my boy.
Hey. Anyway, the other promise that the Scottish Government and COSLA are trying to make to these council workers, because basically they're working for councils, the education departments are run by the councils. What they've said is, look, here's a lift to the minimum wage by 99 pence. Here's a 5% pay rise. Over the next couple of years, we will work towards getting your minimum wage to £15. So basically what they're saying is, now that the Scottish Government's budget is inflation-proof, then we'll get a rise in our budget, which will cover inflation, and we will be able to pass it on to you. So that's basically what the Scottish Government are offering. Now, the strikes have not been arranged yet. It's just could go on strike. They'll get time to negotiate here. They're predicting strikes in September. Well, the schools will just get back next weekend, like the week after. It's not something that Sarah and I would know much about. You know,
one would hope that steady hands on the tiller and common sense attitudes prevail. But GMB still, you know that there's something away there politically when it is Richard Leonard's wife that runs it, and she has caused problems in different strikes.
That was good time. That was a good segue because we're going to go into Bouncy Boy in a minute, right after I've addressed this comment. That's no wonder one banner high vis best, is it, Davey? The clue's in the name. I'm a truck driver. I've got hundreds of these things. One thing I don't have, Stephen, is an all under one banner one. But I've got more of these bloody high vis vests than you know, I could sell them. You know.
And see as we're advertising, this is from Mountain Warehouse. I think it was £19.99. You can still get them, I think.
You. Hey, no product promotion here unless they're keen as a bum for the food banks. Simple as that. But anyway, just come out that the reason why Bouncy Boy Leonard was replaced as a spokesperson for the branch office here in Scotland was because Starmer thought he was too left wing. So apparently Starmer sacked Bouncy Boy and had him replaced by the red Tory poverty by Sarwar. So there you go. That was, it would appear that Bouncy Boy was part of Starmer's purge of the left, which we were talking about earlier with McTiernan. It's funny how these things are rolling into each other, isn't it? Could have been right it that way.
You can actually see the situation where Starmer had his thoughts of, if I could get Starmer in, I know he's a Tory, or right wing, if I could get him into the top spot and remove that Bouncy Boy, and he did it.
He's got a puppet here. Apparently, it's now 14 council areas that will now be joining strike action. And who are these councils? Well, I know it was the councils are East Dunbartonshire, Orkney Isles, East Renfrewshire, Fife, Education Scotland apparently are going to go on strike, Dundee City Council, Inverclyde Council, Glasgow City Council, Argyll and Bute, and Clackmannanshire. And Oh, I can't pronounce the last one, David. I really can't. It's one of the Western Isles councils. I really can't pronounce it. It's written in Gaelic, and I'm sorry, I should be able to speak my own language, but I don't. Sorry, apparently class action missed your product placement there, David. Don't do it again. Unless they're wrong. So, as it turns out, that Bouncy Boy Leonard was knocked out of office by Starmer because he was a socialist, a left-winger. To be replaced by Poverty Pie, who's a puppet. Right, and of course, the other thing that Starmer came away with this week, he's keeping the...
Yeah, he's the bedroom tax.
He's also keeping in Scotland.
Yeah.
He's also keeping in Scotland so that we continue to have to mitigate the cost of it, meaning that we have to hand so much of our budget back to Westminster in order that we don't impose this tax on grandma and make her have to move to the family home. You know? Absolutely astonishing. So it's been an interesting week, and of course with the Jenrick, that was a cracking story, that. Jenrick on LBC saying that Starmer was in cahoots with lefty lawyers to stop flights to Rwanda. And he was asked to name this lefty lawyer who had reported that Starmer is working in a wee conspiracy theory in the background with all the lefty lawyers. And Braverman getting tanked into lefty lawyers again. It would appear that if you're an immigration lawyer here in the UK, you're in danger for the right one. It's no funny.
I appreciate what you're saying, but to be honest with you, I think lawyers will get plenty more enemies than that.
See you next time, Melanie. It was nice to see you in the air last week. So,
yeah, sorry, carry on, Dave.
So it's been a week where the Westminster politicians and Scottish Labour having Labour in Scotland. Let's not call them Scottish Labour. Labour in Scotland have not covered themselves in glory. The Tories have been making the usual arse of themselves and denying that anything's got to do with Brexit.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, Bank of England, 546,000 homes now at risk, thanks to the Bank of England's latest interest rate hikes.
That's the tip of the iceberg. That's the tip of the iceberg.
That is the tip of the iceberg. But I mean, as I say, mostly it's just MPs and MSPs making an absolute pig's of themselves in the media because we are in the silly season. But some of the things that are being said, like Sunak, the unemployed, are responsible for inflation because we have tight labour markets. We have tight labour markets because of Brexit. You couldn't make this stuff up. You know? And it could well be that Mr. Milligan here has suffered from a dodgy stomach thanks to the lack of checks at the ports.
Yeah, it's impossible to prove it one way or the other. Of course it is.
Oh, and of course we had the laugh about the triathlon in Sunderland where all the athletes went down with the trots because of E. coli in the sea because the amount of sewage is being pumped into the sea around England.
That's ridiculous. That really is. Yeah, I mean when I lived down in England, I used to take the kids to Scarborough and we'd go down to the beach. But even at that time, this is like early 90s. At that time, you'd see poo floating in the pools and all the rest of it as you walked along the beach. Don't go near that, you know what I mean? Telling your kids that are like 2 and 3 years, oh, come away for that, you know. So it's not. This isn't something that is brand new. This is something that's been happening for a while, but it's just all of a sudden now it's a deluge.
Aye. I mean, they're even pumping into national parks and Christ and nature reserves. Unbelievable. And
then there's a story. There's a story that goes with that shows that these people that have been in charge of the water authorities in England have been using it purely and simply as a cash cow for their own benefit.
That's right.
And starting off with next to no debt whatsoever, they built up, was it £45 billion worth of debt most of which is going into the shareholders.
Aye. Now, aye, they've been accumulating debt to pay dividends. Now, is that not illegal?
Yes, it is actually. Yes, it is. If you are discovered as a director paying dividends without there being money there to do so, you're effectively on the wrong side, and you should report that. But
it's been reported to select committees now, so surely these people should be getting jailed. But let's have a look. Ian said, "Come on, guys, a wee plug for the Sky March at the end of this month." Apparently, there's a march in the Sky at the end of this month for all under one banner. Ian, put the date up, will you? But I'm afraid I will be making that one because accommodation's tight up there, and Sarah will get any tent, something like that.
You could go in the dungeon at what's the castle at Skye? The MacLeod Castle. What's it called again? Dunvegan. They've got this bottleneck dungeon there. They can just throw you down there. You could stay there for 3 days. No bother.
We've got a bottleneck dungeon in St Andrews Castle, am I right? So there you go, aye. So the march is on the 26th of August, apparently, folks. Remember, the following week, there's the 2nd of September, there's a march in Edinburgh as well. The one in Edinburgh is from Believe in Scotland, and it's a march for Scotland and Europe, independent Scotland and Europe.
Can I make one more little mention towards the chain of freedom?
Yes, aye, of course, aye.
We need a lot more people to actually subscribe onto the group. You know, do the thing of giving their name and all the rest of it, right? So that the people at the top end of it can do a bit of management on who's going to be where. You know, I live in the Clydebank area. I don't want to end up by the Kelpies. You know, which I'd like to see them. I still want to end up with the Kelpies. I want to be somewhere.
They're big metal horse heads, you know. They're nice, especially at night when they light them up all the different colours. But I'm going to end up on the towpath somewhere between Cumbernauld and probably Bonnybrig. You know, that's where I'll be, because in a straight line going that way, that's where it is to me. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have to remember Indie 2 Cafe Night Out in November, Pete Scally entertaining, and I will get the dates, and stick the dates in for that one and all, folks. Now, look, Whomsat is looking for people to help campaign in Hamilton and Rotherham West this Thursday. If you're available, go onto the website, you know, you go on the SNP website, and volunteer if you can. Unfortunately, I can't do it, but if you can, because as I say, that's an important one to win. Now, what I'm being told is it's not as the bookies have got labelled in as favourites, but that's not what's been said in the streets. You know, what I've heard from the people, I know they're going to be out campaigning, saying they're getting a positive reaction to the doorstep. But as we know, as people who have campaigned doorsteps, a lot of people, when you get to the doorstep and start interacting with them, they'll tell you what you want to hear and then shut the door on you and move on and do what they're going to do anyway.
Yeah. It will be very interesting if Katie actually wins this, because therefore my little pet theory of by-elections being bad for the incumbent maybe doesn't work, and it maybe
it depends on the circumstances. You know, there's different circumstances here. You know, we've still got the main issue of debate here in Scotland, which will come up in any seat. And what we all have is tactical voting. So if there is any Tories in that, and they will vote Labour. Any Lib Dems in Hamilton and Rotherham West, they'll vote Labour and all, because here in Scotland it's all about yes versus no. You know. So we'll see how that one pans out. But if you can help with the canvassing, and you have time to put in to help canvassing in Hamilton Rotherham West, then go onto the website, the SNP website, and find out where the meeting point is and go along and help. Okay. And apparently we're being told to bugger off. We must be boring the day. Stephen Kelly's telling us, "Hours up, guys. You know, see you next time."
Are we holding you up, Stephen?
So to keep eyes on the prize, folks. All right, Stephen's making it clear. Eyes on the prize. We'll to bugger off, David. Apparently, we're boring this week.
I'm boring the letter. I don't know about you, but anyway, there you go.
Well, you know, Julie, I'll put your comment up before we chuck it. Right. I think I'll put it up. Aye. Circumstances are different at the moment due to the general election and possible Monday. Well, you know, it's quite interesting because I've been watching the Scottish MPs who put out weekly podcasts and things like that. And Martin Day, he's convinced that, yep, it's going to be that plebiscite election, and yep, we're going to win. So, anyway, David, to comply with Stephen Kelly's wish,
Yes.
I guess we better piss it off. Sorry, we'll go to him. Sorry, we must toddle on. Remember, we're on into live radio, so I better watch my P's and Q's.
Yes.
Although piss off is quite an ordinary thing to be said in Scotland. Dexter, thank you very much. It's very generous of you. Thanks, Rosie. Now, listen, folks. If you like us, we're the Two Davies. If you don't like us, we're the Anna Sarwar Appreciation Society. Okay. That just looks one thing left to do, David.
Bye, Annis.
Bye, Annis. Bye, folks.
See you, David.